All right. Cool. All right. So let's see where this goes. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I decided to just start one and see where it goes. I was thinking that I'd like to talk about anxiety. I haven't talked about that yet. And possibly PTSD because been having some ideas on. I need to take my glasses off. Forgot it's just a ginormous white square. You know, it's annoying. Okay. Sweet. So I'm gonna get right down to the nitty gritty. Um, See how long I take. Maybe 30 minutes to an hour until a buddy of mine comes back. I'm waiting on. There's the camera. Okay. So might as well get right down to. I don't know if I like this feedback, microphone feedback. I could just probably keep it there. You know what? Fuck it. All right. Piss off. Okay. So, I think one of the most important things that people don't understand about anxiety that they should is anxiety is not a bad thing. Not at all. Like, it really isn't. I mean, the same thing goes with every other neural mechanism you could possibly say. It's classified as a mental disorder when it gets a little out of whack. So anxiety, I think not clinicians, I think clinicians have this in order. But most people not necessarily familiar with the clinical literature, I would say, have the propensity to approach anxiety and those who suffer from anxiety with too much empathy to the point where say, you know what, you shouldn't be anxious, right? Oh, pity you, oh, I pity you so much. You shouldn't be anxious at all. You should have no anxiety whatsoever. It's like, haha, it couldn't be more wrong. It's like, I think one of the real big things when understanding anxiety, this is very important if you're going into psychotherapy, is that anxiety is, when people are anxious, there's a damn good reason for it. Like, every time. The reason I thought about this was because I came from like a little meeting of a club, and then the person was I guess it was, the president of the club was up there just talking, and then they said they were kind of nervous because public speaking, and it's just like, well, that's anxiety in a moderate, mild form. Well, no, normal anxiety is it should be commensurate with the situation you're placed in. All right, the danger of the situation or possible detriments that the situation, the possible manifested detriments that can happen to you in any given situation. Like, so I guess I'd like to use public speaking as, say, if you fear the fear of public speaking. I don't know what the scientific word for that is. Okay, it's working. But yeah, that's fairly common anxiety, very common. And so, if you approach someone who's extremely anxious for speaking, for public speaking, you should not say that their anxiety is unwarranted, because it's the opposite. It's like, so let me. You should be absolutely terrified of public speaking. It's because it's a terrifying thing. When you speak publicly, what you're doing is you're basically laying yourself out naked for everyone to just take at their own will. Not necessarily take, but just sort of judge. It's like that's what happens when you put yourself in the world. It's like you get seen and you get judged. And it's like, yeah. So public speaking, it's like, I mean, it's probably worse than just walking out and standing naked. It's because I think, I mean, I've thought this for a long time, and I'd say who you are your beliefs, like 100%. That is who you are, your beliefs. You know, not what you look like. You know, it's your beliefs is really who you are. It's just those seem to be encapsulated in a body. And so when you go out and speak publicly, you're laying those beliefs out. You're saying, here. It's like you're lying on the table and being just searched through. It's unbelievably scary. It really is. Like, you have a damn right to be fearful of that. It's because really, when you speak publicly, it really only takes one small little thing. If you take one little step off in the wrong direction, things can go really bad for you. It's like, man, if you really just sit and think about what exactly public speaking is, and really everything in general, because everything has the capacity to cause destruction if handled incorrectly, which is why there's so many damn fears everywhere. Everything may seem innocuous at first. It's like, but I mean, you'll find a situation that's going to be a danger, right? Say, for instance, a chair you're sitting on. It's like a chair, really. That's no danger. It's like, well, what happens when, say, you just wake up, look to your left, and you see a chair flying at your face? It's like, okay, well, now the chair is a danger, right? And for damn good reason, because it might beat your ass. So, like, public speaking, I mean, hell, it's an unbelievably scary thing. And so, to speak the idea that things like public speaking, things that are dangerous, really, that you got to be careful in doing, or else you got to take great care in doing it, or else you might end up in a bad spot. And it's like, I think it doesn't do someone right to tell them that there's no danger in something. It's like, I mean, if you encounter a random cave in the wilderness and you say, nah, there's no danger in that cave. It's like, well, then what's the person going to do? It's like, they're going to go in and they're going to mess up big time. And that's not a good thing at all. It does them a disservice to say what lies in this activity is all positivity. It's like, no, that's not how anything works. There's negativity. Oh, by God, everything. In fact, I would say there's more negative outcomes than there are positive outcomes. It's because action's predicated on a goal. And really, I mean, if you do something, you have a goal in mind. And there's really only a very small number of things you can do in order to even get near that goal. That's just the process of learning at its basic components. It's like you have an idea of you have an initial state, a current state, and you have a goal state, a desired state. And well, you want to get there. You might not know how, but you have an idea. It's your most competent idea. So you put it into practice, and if it doesn't work, you got some rewriting to do. Hey, but at least you know a little bit more, right? You're not as stupid as you were when you first did it. It's like, yeah, that's learning right there. But every way that you can orient yourself towards a goal, say public speaking, right? Your goal is to get a point across and have as many people understand and agree with it and say hold you in higher regard because of that. Um, there's not that there's of all the possible actions that you could commit. Yeah, there's maybe a few. It really is. And it's like it's hard to really get down that few. I mean, it's mastery, like the mastery of public speaking, just like you master piano. It's like there's a million wrong ways you can play the piano, but there are very few right ways. That's why, as far as technically, musically, you'd be surprised at the constraints. But also, it's more or less subjective. So, I mean, you might find some real doinky stuff and say, like, hey, that's pretty nice. But so it's known versus unknown. And well, how much do you know? Put how much you know in a book and compare it to the book of how much you don't know. It's like, yeah, that's a big book, all right? So, and say this little book is how to be a good speaker. This is how do you know how to speak publicly and get and reach my desired state. And then you have all possible outcomes that I don't know about, right? Well, a lot of bad things can arise from situations, all situations. Everything is just riddled with danger. It's a reason why naivety is so dangerous, right? It's why we have parents. It's why we're raised for 18 damn years. It's because there's a lot in this world we have to get in order. There really is. Because, I mean, the lives humans live are a bit more complex than all the other ones, all the other animals. And really by far, like, absolutely. So, yeah, you better be damn scared if you're going to go up. It's like anxiety is an absolutely fantastic mechanism. It's a reason it evolved biologically. There's a good reason. But the basic predicate of anxiety is fear. Okay, so what does fear tell you to do? Well, fear, what you'd like to think it tells you is to run, right? It's like the fight or flight kind of thing, because you have two options when anomaly, threat arises, and it's like fight or flight. It's like, okay, well, what happens if you flight? Say, what happens if you run away? It's like, well, you're training yourself that you are not capable of even facing this danger in any way, shape, or form. And well, what happens to the danger? It's like, well, if a danger is like your own mechanism in your brain, it's like when you run away from something you're anxious of, you're not only training the running away part of your brain, but you're training the anxious. So you're really building up the anxious to be some big, bad, beefy beast. And then like little you, the confronter of chaos, it's like, no, you don't confront it, you run. It's like you've trained yourself. And so, no, flight is a bad idea. That's not what you should get from fear. And that's tends to be what people with anxiety does. Because it's way easier, right? If something is making you scared as hell, it's like, okay, it's a lot easier to just say, okay, yeah, I'm not going to do that. It's like, yeah, well, you know, well, I'll tell you what happens to people who do that, who go down that path. And, well, strictly down that path. It's like they don't confront nothing. Every time they get anxious, they go, ha, nope, and they go out. It's like, well, if you've lived like more than 3 days you know that danger manifests itself everywhere. However, the average individual pays no mind to it, right? We can dwindle down threat to non-threat, right? Say if you just heard about a car and like, oh, these things are half-ton machines going like 40, 50 miles per hour. And say if you get hit by one, you're dead. It's like, okay. You'd probably want to stay really far away from a road. Because once you see a vehicle that's moving, it's like, oh, you're in a dangerous area. And it's like, yeah, that's a threat. So what do? Do you just run away until you don't find any more vehicles around? It's like, no, you sort of figure out, you kind of stick around, right? Pay attention. You'll find, well, they kind of follow a pattern, right? They're not going over in these areas. They're not going over in these areas. So maybe I don't necessarily have to run away right now. Maybe I'm fine where I'm at. And so the more you familiarize yourself with, say, this beast that you're so anxious of, the more patterns start manifesting itself in say, weaknesses or whatever you can call it. You can more or less say, okay, I understand this beast, so I don't think it is a threat to me when I'm in this state, or this state. So I'm not going to keep track of it when I'm in this state, and this state. However, when I'm crossing a road, yeah, I better watch out. It's like, so anxiety tells you one of two things. Run away, and not necessarily fight, but pay attention, because that's fighting. If you're anxious and something is scaring the hell out of you, and you stay there and stare that beast into the eyes, it's like that's confronting it. All right, that really is. So in public speaking, your best bet is to not public speak. Speak publicly, right? Obviously. I saw a tweet the other day. It kind of pissed me off. I don't know if I want to go find it. But, I mean, it was this tweet, and it got like well over 100,000 likes. And I was like, are you kidding me? Is this person who obviously has anxiety and has, I don't want to touch that because that's in my, and is rather familiar with anxiety symptoms, at least idiosyncratic symptoms. I wrote a tweet, like it was actually a long thread, but more or less the thing was saying public school systems need to stop forcing children or students to do presentations. And the big underlying lesson that she was trying to get across was facing your fears does not work. You don't treat anxiety by facing your fears. And it's like, hey, man, okay, first of all, you are right. Someone who's extremely socially anxious, man, do you really think it's a good idea to force them to stand up in front of 20, 30 odd people and give a presentation? No, actually, that's a bad idea. And so there's a fundament among clinicians as far as, really anything goes, is that if your patient needs to do something, and you can use this on yourself if you want to solve something. I can't really use it on yourself. They can either do it voluntarily or involuntarily. Now, it's tough to distinguish what is voluntary and involuntarily, because, like, you still don't have to, you're not forced by gunpoint to give a presentation at school, but it's still influenced very heavily. She's right in saying that facing your fears does not solve anxiety. It actually makes it worse. However, that is only if when facing the fear is involuntary. So involuntarily facing your fears, no, that's bad. It's because when that happens, okay, so I used to think back in the day when I was a fucking idiot, that, see, my mom is scared of cockroaches. She's a phobia of cockroaches. I thought that maybe if I got little toy cockroaches and I would just randomly throw them at her, it would help. I never did that, because, well, maybe I'm not as much an idiot, but I still thought that would possibly work. And it's like, well, now I know. I'm glad I didn't do that. It's because now this is something neuroscience literature would most definitely back up, is that when you're casted involuntarily into confrontation with that which you are absolutely terrified of, you go into prey mode, right? And, well, what's prey mode? Well, prey mode is like the little bitty rabbit that's being chased by a bear. It's like, I don't know if that happens, but, maybe a wolf, okay? It's like by a big ass wolf. I would not say that that's a good mindset you want to be in when approaching that which is you're terrified of, which is a threat, which you're scared of. You don't want to approach it, well, no, because it approaches you, because that's a characterization of, or a characteristic of prey. It's like the prey is the one that's out whittling on its own, being chased by the beast. And so, well, obviously prey doesn't voluntarily get eaten by the predator. That'd be, it's involuntary. Yeah, okay, involuntary. However, if you face your fears voluntarily, your brain goes into predator mode. And so that's a good place to be in. It's because now you are no longer the one running and hiding from the big, bad, scary beast. You are the one hunting it down. Like, you are the hunter. And it's your job to say, take down this little beast, right? And so you do face your fears, you do solve anxiety. In fact, that's really the only way to solve anxiety, as far as I can tell. By facing fears voluntarily. If you do it involuntarily, you'll make it worse. It's like voluntary, that's a positive right there. Involuntary, that's a negative. Like, you do anything involuntarily, have a bad outcome, at least psychologically. I think he's freezing. I don't know if that's on camera or something. So plus, like, you do anything voluntarily, like, this goes for everything. Like, you do anything voluntarily, as long as you approach it, I'd say with wisdom, you're gonna gain something out of it. You're gonna wind up better, even if what you did was kind of stupid and it was predicated on a lot of ignorance. It's like, well, hey, you learned something. That's the art of learning. And, like, I mean, that goes back in the day. Well, no, not back in the day. What the hell do I mean? Okay, so that's something a good relationship to talk about learning and anxiety. So learning, the only way to learn is to, well, perform, right? To act, right? To fight, not flight. Because, say, you don't learn a damn thing if every time the possibility of something challenging your competence of a given subject arises, you run. It's like, well, you're never going to learn a damn thing, right? You aren't at all. And so the same thing happens with anxiety. If, say, something is making you anxious, you might not want to run. That's because, well, like in learning, your ignorance is only going to grow. Because, I mean, time exists, by the way, and that's why problems grow so damn big. It's like, if you want to know what feeds problems, it's ignorance. Well, whether it's purposeful or you're just setting it aside, you're ignoring it, or you just don't know about it. And well, that can say like your wife is having an affair and you don't know about it. It's just like, well, there's really nothing you can do to find out other than find out that your wife's having an affair. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, yeah, there was something growing under the rug. I just never go into the living room, so I don't see the rug. It's like, man, so what the fuck am I doing? So, like, learning. So what I was saying before, what you do in order to learn is you act. You act out your, you decide a goal, act out your most competent operator, which is your performance, your behavior, in order to achieve that goal. And, well, however far you deviate from the your goal point should be enough to tell you, okay, I'm not a master at this. Like, you're a master of something if you say, okay, you specify a goal and you reach it every damn time. So, I mean, like, I play piano, so I'll probably use piano examples a lot. Say, like, a concert pianist. It's like, they know how to learn a piece. They know how to learn a piece. Like, it's like me, if I try to learn a piece, I'm probably not going to learn it right. The end product is going to have mistakes. I'm going to maybe forget things. I don't know. But a concert pianist is a master. They're an absolute master at, say, reaching their goal. Specify a goal, and they know exactly how to perform in order to achieve that goal. And, well, you can only do that by, first of all, more or less confronting your own competence, right? Putting your competence to the test. And so that's what you do with anxiety, is that when something is making you anxious, you put your damn confidence to the test. And, well, your competence, right? So like all neural mechanisms, anxiety is a tool. Like, definitely. It's like, and it's probably one of the greatest tools we have out there. Because it's like your spidey senses, right? Like, if you're Spider-Man, Spider-Man's spidey senses is, say, normal man's equivalent of anxiety. No, anxiety's equivalent of normal man. I'm not sure how to word that, but you know what I mean. Or maybe not. So your anxiety is your spidey sense. spidey sense. I can't even say that. So your anxiety is your spidey senses tingling. And so, well, yeah, so when it starts tingling, danger is nearby. Okay? And well, what manifests from danger? Destruction, right? And so if you run away, well, that destruction, it's just going to grow out. Say, okay, let's, Spider-Man, for example, spider senses start tingling. He goes, oh, well, shit, something bad's going down. So he sees a bank. It's being robbed. Okay, so let's say Spider-Man says, that's dangerous. I want no part of it. I don't want no part of it. Because I'm scared to death of that. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, you should be. If you're going to go bank robbers, they all have guns. And it's like, yeah, sure, yeah, psa, psa, psa. You have cool webs and stuff, but you can still get shot in the fucking head, like, no doubt. It's like his suit's not bulletproof as far as where I'm kept up with. Is it? I don't know. I doubt it. So he could get just shot right in the head. Okay? No problem. So, why is he not absolutely scared? It's because he's a hero, right? Man, I don't know if I want to get into the hero myth, but by God, it's probably the best story of mankind we have. So, okay, I'm gonna say the basic hero myth, and when you're feeling anxious, remember the hero myth, or you could just remember Spider-Man, because that's a hero. That the story of Spider-Man is hero mythology. Really, it's the hero motif. You know, whatever you want to say, and really every story has a hero motif once in there. So the hero myth goes as such. Something threats social order. And so someone who is the hero ventures out into the chaos, into the unknown, to confront this chaos, that which is a danger to the social order. Well, they conquer it, they defeat it, and they get a reward, and then they bring it back to share. All right, everyone benefits from the hero, and that, I mean, that happens in everything. Jesus, the story of Jesus is a hero myth. It's like him dying on the cross, right? What was threatening social order? And it was sin, right? It was people doing dumb shit. Sin is basically stuff that makes an amalgam of other people suffer. What's that word? Suffer undeservedly, right? So when you commit an act that has a propensity to cause suffering to those who do not deserve it, would more or less be a sin, as far as the Bible's concerned. And so Jesus said, okay, here, look. God made it known, right, in the Bible that those who sin will suffer. And it's like, well, yeah, it's because that's just how things work. If you shoot someone in the head, a lot of people are going to suffer. It's like, yeah. So that would be a sin, right? And it causes suffering. So the story of Jesus, what he did is he said, okay, look, I'm going to take everybody's sin, and I'm going to take all their suffering. Like, take all the suffering that they deserve for their sins and just put it on me. And, you know, something's interesting about this is that I think one of the... In Tao Te Ching, one of the canonical texts for Taoism, written by Lao Tzu. I don't know if it's a canonical text, but I know it's, the basic book for Taoism. And this is like ancient China kind of stuff. That this same idea that in two different religions, both kind of manifested. Which, if you study religion, they're all way similar. Not similar as far as not necessarily empirical content, but meaning, and say lessons, right? The overarching ideas trying to be displayed through the story. It's like they're really similar. I'm getting a message saying something like something's getting overloaded, but I don't care. I don't care. And so Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching, which is like a basic canonical, it's like Bible for Christians, but Tao Te Ching for Taoists. It says something, I can't remember where, but it most definitely said, a good king is one who inherits the humiliation of his people. And that's a good thing to think about, because the king is a hero more or less, right? The king is the one who confronts chaos and gets rewarded and spreads it to his people. So that's a good damn king right there. And while Jesus did that same thing, he took all the suffering that everyone deserved and said, look, I'll take it. And well, that made him suffer. Like, yeah. It killed him, really. And then, well, he rebirthed. It's like, that's the rebirth motif. That's everywhere. Like, in the form of Phoenix. Like, that's probably one of the most popular manifestations of the rebirth motif. But I think a rebirth motif is a subcategory of the hero motif. Because when you go and confront the chaos, it's not easy. In fact, you don't come out all like, you don't come out sharp as a tack, smooth, pure. You're going to be nicked up a bit. That's because it's not necessarily chaos if it's just absolutely easy for you to handle. It's like pouring a glass of milk is not chaotic. It is not something extremely difficult for an adult. But for like a very small child, yeah, that's pretty damn difficult. So you gotta, yeesh. So confronting chaos, right? And the hero myth is what you're supposed to enact out. It's like every hero in every, say, religion or every book, your goal is to act out their behavior. Say, not necessarily tit for tat, right? Like, don't try to get yourself crucified on a cross, but the underlying themes you should imitate. And so, like, Jesus, he went and he came out, he rebirthed, and what happens was, well, after he rebirthed, he transcended. He just float up into heaven. He literally became the most divine a being can be. Well, he became a divine being. And so what happened? He confronted chaos. Sin degraded the social order. So he confronted it, said, here, I'll deal with it. He dealt with it. He didn't end up in a good place. All right? It left a couple scars. That kind of stuff. He rebirthed. And well, that's how you attain wisdom. That's how you attain competence. That's how you live in the world to your utmost efficiency, is by confronting that which disrupts your order. And your order is small. The amount of chaos compared to your order is absolutely, well, yikes. Okay? There's a lot of it. And it's fed through time. It's like everything that will ever happen to you is in the future, lying somewhere. And so it's your competence that allows you to prepare for that. And you can only do that by confronting that which is fed from the future. And so the hero motif is to say as us as human beings, is when things come our way, right? Time. When things just come our way, there's going to be things that kind of throw us out, right? I mean, time is a dimension that is not accounted for at all. When people like to think, I put a tweet about this. I know, it was a little psychological utterance I got after reading something, I think, The Movement of Existential Psychology or something by Rollo May. I don't remember the exact title, but it was something I thought of after thinking about it. It was just more or less existentialism, as I said. I think man's greatest bane is his proclivity to see himself as an object and not a multiplicity of possible objects. And so what that means is people tend to forget that the aspect of time, right? And that what comes with time is not what is now. That's why there's a difference between the future and the present, and well, obviously the past, because where you're at right now, like you might be fine where you're at, but if you stay at that spot, if you become a little stagnant little lily pad, you're going to get swallowed. The state you are in now will not work for the future. It never will. And so that's why, say, if you are doing something that gives instant gratification, watch out. Because that might make you feel good in the now, but it most definitely will likely become a detriment for you in the future. And that's why the hero motif, the hero suffers. They get battle scars. It's because they confront the chaos. The chaos of time, the tyrannical nature of time. And well, the tyrannical nature is the natural intrinsic aspect of degradation of everything. Everything degrades over time if not maintained. And so that maintenance is a absolutely important aspect. And there's a lot of competence required to maintain a life. It's because a lot of things are in the future. A lot of possible outcomes will manifest, and you don't know which one. But the more you know about the damn world, the more you confront that which, say, threatens your order, the more you will familiarize yourself. It's like everywhere you go, it's like beast after beast after beast. Whether it's just a test you have to take, a long line at Starbucks. It's like you can't find your other damn shoe. It's like, well, there's a reason. Not every human being is just absolutely lost. It's because sometimes they're forced to do that. No one's forcing them to do that. Yet they somehow have the meaning needed in order to act out a certain behavior. Or to confront, say, like a beast. And I think, so take people who have young children with mental illnesses. No, not mental illnesses, with chronic illnesses. It's like, illnesses that are probably going to kill them pretty early on. It's like, yeah, these people are really damn good at confronting chaos. It's because they were born under the palm of probably the biggest damn beast that can even manifest itself from time. And it's fate. There was nothing they could do about it. That's just aspect of life. We all have our different tools that we're born with, right? And so that's why psychological, say, clinicals doesn't work for everybody, because everyone has a different tool set, right? So you got to more or less find out what tool set they have, and then you as a clinician have to say, okay, I'd say use that tool. Okay, now see if you can dig there and see there. I say that's more of a Rogerian approach. No, probably existentialist approach, because I think Rogers or Carl Rogers, I think, was influenced by existential thinking, most definitely. Um, so, God, where the hell did I just go? Anyway, golly, I tend to go off a bit. I have high state of volubility. So we're talking about anxiety, right? So I most definitely would say, like clinicians, they have to focus on understanding the tool set, like what you are and what you can do. It's because you have to be you, right? In order to best be you. It's like if you just try to imitate a bunch of random people that aren't you, it's like that's not going to work, right? I see this happening all the time, and well, it's a young thing children do. You'll notice that when children go into superhero movies and they come out, they pretty much become Spider-Man for the next week, right? Like I did. I watched a Spider-Man movie, and then I'd be crawling across the ground as if it was the wall, pretending I'm Spider-Man. And it's like, well, as you grow up, you sort of, okay, I'm not Spider-Man, and I'm not living in the world that which he is living in. I'm me. I have my own tool set, my own skill set. I have my own possibilities to where my skill set can grow. I have my own limitations, my biological limitations, as to where my skill set can grow, right? Like I can't be a really popular female pornographist, slut, because I'm a dude, right? I have my limitations, and so an aspect of cognitive development, I wouldn't necessarily know where I'd place this, like even in basic Piagetian sense. This is more speculative. That's an important thing to learn, is to distinguish your own reality. And so, I mean, most children are fairly egotistical growing up. And then other people start existing. And then, well, sooner or later, you sort of grow to understand the social unit. And then you have to grow to understand your place in the social unit and your possible roles. Definitely. And so you got to confront that which makes you anxious, because like I said before, the spidey senses tingling there's good to be had if I act. That's what anxiety is. That's what anxiety says. Anxiety, if you're about to do something and it's making you anxious, you need to do that thing. Because when you come out, you will be way better than you are. Yeah, you might have a little nicks and bruises. You might have stuttered in the speech. You might have forgot what you were saying. But, it's good, right? I mean, the more you fail, it's like the less likely you are to fail. You have to recognize you fail, and you have to recognize that there are more things you can learn. Like you confront the damn beast. You say, okay, hey, man. And like, okay, I understand that some things are too big, absolutely way too big for just one person to handle. Well, Okay, I'm going to use fear of rats as an example. This is something I'd like to do as a research experiment. Of course, I'd probably need a research grant, and so I might see if I could apply for one next semester. But I'd like to. Well, here's an idea, and this has been even uttered by other clinicians as well. I mean, I know this works because it's more or less the clinical side of anxiety. It's like what you do in clinicals to fix anxiety. So, say your phobia of rats, right? And I'm going to pretend I'm, say, a clinician right here. So a patient comes into my office and they're absolutely terrified of rats. So, what am I going to do? Okay, good question. We have to remember that what fixes anxiety is is facing fears voluntarily. All right? Taking your damn sword, unsheathing it, and confronting that little beast that you're oh so scared of. But that same beast is destroying your life. So you have two options. Have your life destroyed, or take a bit of damage, right? Right? Because you can run away from the beast. Remember that. You can definitely run away from the beast, and things will all be fine. For the short term, but for the mid to long term, oh, there it is again. Oh, and it's a lot bigger. Oh, yikes. I'll run away again. Well, sooner or later, no matter how far you run away, it's so big that it could just and it just absolutely destroy you. So no. Okay. I'd say start hitting things when they manifest. Problems, when they manifest, you start. So fixing big problems is extremely difficult. So people who are extremely anxious, like so patients who would come into, say, a psychotherapist would, they're already going to have a real big ass beast that they got to face. So obviously you can't go in one go, right? You can't do it like, say, if you were pouring milk and you accidentally spilt some. You're like, It's like, well, are you going to say, oh, I don't want to clean that up and run away? It's like, no, that's fine. I'll just, boom, that's not a problem at all. There's a little bitty beast. It's like a little mini bear. And you're just like, pah! Okay, problem solved. So you got a big beast. So they're scared to death of rats. So what I would do is I'd get a cage with a rat in it, with an open top, okay? Not where the rat can just run out. It's going to make sure it can't climb out. And so I'm going to tell my patient, I'm going to say, hey, look, see way over there? There's a rat in there. And then I say, okay, that was that was a good impression. But they might go, oh, no. It's just like, okay. First, well, and what you're going to want them to do, as at least what I would ask them, is to say, how many steps are you willing to walk towards that? And they might look at you and say, okay. Say they're 40 steps away right now. Are you willing? I'll say, are you willing to walk 30 steps? Are you willing to be 10 steps away from it? And they might say, no. Say, okay. Remember, voluntary. Facing fears voluntarily. Say, okay. What about 15? Did I say 15 or did I say 10? Oh, whatever, 15. And they say, no. It's like, okay, what about 20? It's like, no. It's like, okay, what about 25? Okay, I can do 25. Oh, okay, great. They do 25. Okay, now we're 25 steps away. Okay, are you willing to walk another 10? They might say, no. What about another 7? No. Okay, what about another 6? They'll say, oh, all right, fine. All right, this is an example. It's not exactly how to play out. So they walk another 6 steps. Okay, they're 19 steps away. We just stand there for a while. They look at it. Say, okay, just go ahead and look at it. Do you think you could walk another 5 steps? Well, after staring at it a while, splitting space. All right, fine. I can do that. They walk 14 steps. Okay. It's like, so, okay. You seem, how are you feeling? Yeah. It's like, okay, so how about you stand 5 steps away from it? And they say, no. Say, okay. All right. Maybe another, maybe 8 steps away? No? Okay, how about do you think you could just take 2 steps? They say, okay, all right, I can do that. And they do it. 1 more step? Yeah, okay, fine. How about just 1 more? All right? They say, okay, fine. And they do it. It's like, okay, well, now they're 10 steps away. Yeah, well, if you remember, they first refused 10. It's like, why? Because they thought they were in prey mode, because that's their normal state when any time of exposure to, say, their in any situation where they're exposed to that which they're fear, if anxiety enough, it's like they'll always be in that prey state. But with something like that, you're teaching them to become the predator, right? And so which each and every step, say if you're like playing an RPG and you, I don't know, killing a dragon, each and every step is 1 swing of the sword. Yeah, it takes a little work, but you'll find that, and this happens, and I've heard extensively across discussions with clinicians that people with anxiety will first underestimate, because like I said, in that scenario that they were only willing to go to 25 steps away. But after time, you eventually got to 10 steps, which was the one you first guessed. Or, well, not first guessed, but the first suggestion, which they refused, and then the next one they refused, and the next one they're like, okay. And like, well, now they're way past where they thought they were going to go. And it's like, that does absolute wonders for people with anxiety. Absolute wonders. In fact, it's the sole wonder to solve anxiety. It's like, yeah, most definitely. So, say, again, now they're at 10 feet, say, you willing to go another step? And think about it for a while. They say no. It's like, okay, we're done. Let's go. And you walk away. So that's fine. We'll try again next week. Right? It's like, you think that would be the prey. You're going right back to the prey system. It's like, no. Prey does not confront a single time. Prey runs. and like hell, because they're going to be taken down if they don't. It's like, yeah, eventually predators, they give up the chase sometimes, because maybe that bunny's just a little too fast for them at this moment, right? Maybe they have to chase that bunny a couple more times before they get it. That's fine. Still a damn predator, right? And so often, like I said, I've heard in discussions with clinicians that what would happen is that those people would come back a week later and their lives would be absolutely different. And they would have a lot more problems. It's because, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to have problems, believe it or not. It's because that, and especially a lot of bad problems, it's because that means the things that are making your life shitty have now manifested themselves, and now you know of the problem, so you can do something about it. And these people, they just, after, say, that little exercise, they're like, okay, they're a lot more confident, like a lot. It's weird. And so they confront things, right? They may confront their husband about something and find out something very bad. They may confront their boss, a coworker, all right? Say someone who's been walking all over them, someone who's been lying to them, and all this stuff that they were just hiding, saying, no, I'm going to run away from that possible problem. It's like, no. Now they had a little more confidence, so they faced it. Problems arise. And you might think that's a bad thing. And, well, that tends to turn off a good... Well, no, I wouldn't say. You'd think it would, but a clinician would know exactly. Say, hey, look, now we know what's fucking your life up. Yes! It's like, hell yeah. It's like, oh, man. And the only way you can find out is to be like, confront. And it's like, it's not confront out of malicious intent. It's more or less finding out the truth. That's what confrontation is. It's like, truth gets you absolutely everywhere in life. That's it. Really. The more you familiarize yourself with the truth, the less problems you'll have. And it's like, you'll have problems, but they won't be problems. It's like, the more competent you are, the less problems are problems. It's like I said before, the pouring milk thing. I mean, putting socks, tying your shoes every day. It's like, is that a problem right now? It's like, no, it was when you were not that competent, when you were a little wee squiggle. But, you know your stuff now. Right? You know what you're doing. It's like, I think a good analogy would be MMORPGs. And just say you're level 1, right? This is to talk about anxiety here, obviously, because that's what I've been talking about the whole time. What you first want to do... No, okay, yeah. You start out as a level 1. You have a toolkit, right? You get to pick your little toolkit, right? Most MMORPGs, you get to pick a class. You might be able to pick skills and stuff like that. You may get to change how your character looks. You get to make them sexy. You make them thick. Yeah, who knows? You get to pick your tool set. And that's really the only thing that is not at all similar to real life. Because in real life, you don't get to pick your tool set. You click the randomize button and then enter without even seeing. Like, you don't even get to pick your name, really. Like, you're just given your name. It's just weird. So, boom. Okay, you're level 1. How much do you know about the game? Like, I remember the first time I picked up every MMO I've ever played. It's like, what the hell are all these things? And I would see, if I was a level 1 and I saw level 6, I'd be like, whoa. And it's like, that's the exact same damn thing that happens to children. It's like, if you're 3 years old, a 5-year-old to you is an adult, right? And so Like childhood traumas are a very interesting thing to discuss with patients because often, like, if someone was say 2 years old, the person who did that trauma to them was 5 years old, but to the 2 year old, that 5 year old was an adult. It was equivalent of an adult, and it just never really would go through their head. It's like this person was 5 years old when they did that to you. It's like, okay, if they were two, they might not necessarily really remember it. No, well, yeah, but I don't know. I'm actually not. I can't really remember any of the memory stuff, but I mean that's an interesting thing to talk about, or to discuss about with people with childhood traumas. I forgot what I was talking about. Let me see if I can figure it out real fast. How to get to children? What the hell? Oh, video games. Let's go, man. All right. So yeah, like I was level 1. What the hell was I looking at, right? Like, I mean, I wasn't about to fight a level 3. That's for sure. Because what the hell do I know? It's like, is that thing gonna beat the snot out of me? It's like, maybe. I don't know. I'm not gonna try it. And like I said, I'd see a level 5 and I'd be like, that guy's better than me. That guy knows more about the game than me. So if he were to tell me something, I would say, okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, cool. I'll make sure to, yeah, I'll remember that. And it's like, actually, you don't remember that. You believe it. It's like, because what the hell do you know about the game? And the same thing with children. It's why children are so gullible. It's because what the hell do they know about the world? It's like, nothing. Nothing. And so when an 18-year-old tells, say, a 9 or a 7-year-old some nugget of wisdom, that child's like, whoa. And it's like, yeah, it's because, like, what the hell are they going to refute it with? And that tends to mess people up as far as ideologically. Well, belief. It's like they'll learn something when they're a child, and they'll be gullible, so they just agree to it right away because they have nothing to refute it with. And then they believe it their whole life. And every time someone tells them something different, they say, no, I believe this my whole life. It's just like, yeah, well, remember, find out where you learned it from, you know? It's like those people are hard-headed. They're not humble. They're the opposite of humble. So just, yeah, hard-headed. Those kind of people are real tough to talk to. Especially if they're not willing to confer with you and where they got that idea. Which I once had a buddy who I was talking with about colds, and they believed colds only happen in winter. And I'm like, no. And he was like very adamant on it. And I'm like, no, like, that's not at all true. In fact, it probably happened more in summer. I'm pretty sure. It's been a while since any medical class kind of stuff, but I'm like, where did you hear this? And well, he eventually figured it out. He was willing to say, okay, I don't know where I heard this. I heard it from a guy in second grade, or first. No, it was second grade, and his name was Timmy. And Timmy was the kid who would just tell everybody a bunch of facts that he got from somewhere, that he acquired under the same reasoning that this guy learned it. He was like, he had nothing to refute it, so he's just like, wow, that's cool. That makes sense, because it does make sense, right? A cold. They wouldn't call it a cold if it only happened, jeez, I'm coughing, only happened in summer, right? It's like, no. So it makes perfect sense that they call it a cold. And it's like, yeah, you can get, a lot of things make sense, you know? And so you got to sort of watch out what you believe when you don't necessarily have any idea or any level of competence or anything to refute it. And so, like when you're playing a video game, when you're level 1 and someone tells you to do something, you usually listen, right? You really do. And then often you'll say, oh, that wasn't really that right. You know, I probably should have done it this way. The more familiar you get with the game. And so, like, you go from level 1, then you go to level 5, you go to level 10. It's like, okay, you're level 10 now. There's a level 15 boss guy over there. And it's like, yeah, that's not something I can handle right now. I'm only level 10, right? And well, okay, how do you level up? Well, you confront that which you can manage. And so say if you're level 5 and you're tasked with taking down a level 10. Well, you're going to have to cut your problem down. Cut your problems down into manageable units. You'll have to. It's like there's no other way you'll be able to do it because you can't take down that level 10. That level 10 will beat the snot out of you. So what do? Well, in a game, you just probably kill a bunch of level 6s or level 7s. Get your level up. Handle that which you can manage. And then that which you can manage at level 5 becomes basically easy peasy. So now you move on to level 6. And so it's like you level up with your ability, right? Your level of competence is your experience points, which will, I guess, raise your level. And so you encounter a level 10 problem. It's like at level 5, it's like, well, then maybe you should put it aside. All right, let's take this big goal, this take down the level 10 and separate it into 5 other goals. Take down a level 6, then take down a level 7, then a level 8, then a level 9, then a level 10. It's like you just change one problem into 5 problems. Yeah, that's a lot more problems, but at least you can manage it. You can manage one at a time. And like, I mean, that's a skill in of itself to separate problems into manageable properties. It's like it's a damn good, because else you'll never be able to face a problem. And well, boom, you level up. Now you're level 10. It's just like, and then you look back at, say, like level 2s and 3s, and you're like, how did I ever have a problem with that? How? And so now when people who are level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they're like, what the hell am I doing? You say, hey, look, buddy, you need to do this. This is the best way to get to level 10. And even if you're level 10, it's just like you might, once you get to level 15, you say, oh, you know, I really should have done it that way instead. And it's like, man, get the highest damn level you possibly can. And you don't do that by running from everything that you have to face in order to gain the experience to achieve more competence. It's like the world is a competence hierarchy. And if like you're not competent, you're on the bottom. And that's just how it is. That's just the whole damn world. I mean, really, all life is more or less dominance hierarchy. And I think what distinguishes man between animal is men took dominance, mankind took dominance and changed it to competence. So now you're not beating ever-loving snot out of other people in order to assert your dominance. Just fight, and to say, okay, who's the biggest, baddest boy? It's like, no. It's like competence, man. Someone who knows what they're doing. Well, no, because someone can be an absolute god at piano, but suck at, say, having any sort of job or managing their time. And it's just like, they're not competent at all. It's like what you're looking for is someone who can increase the set of all competence hierarchies. So you want someone who is competent, not competent in forestry or competent in the amount of beans you can consume in a minute. It's like you got to find the way, okay, to which you can rise all competence hierarchies. And I'll tell you what that is that is by confronting that which you don't know. Okay? Leveling up. It's like you level up by handling problems that are a bit challenging. It's because, like, in a lot of MMOs, the best enemies to kill are the ones that are like 1 or 2 levels above you. They get the best experience. Because if you just get ones your level, it's not really that hard. And so you're going to level up very slowly. It's like that in pretty much all MMOs, RPGs. MMORPG, all RPGs in general. So really, you want to find something that's challenging. Challenge yourself, okay? If you're anxious when facing something a little higher level, it's like, okay, good. Beat the snot out of it. It's like, because if you don't, you never will be able to. And it's like you're stuck at level 5 because you're too scared of level 6s. It's like, just think about that. It's like, no. Like, that's not how you want to approach it. It's like you see yourself, whatever means, right? Video games themselves, or MMORPGs, are just extremely basic hero motifs. They really are. It's funny now that I think about it. It's the very fundament of hero motifs, right? And so if you want to fix anxiety and really fix your damn life, become someone who is competent, I had it in my damn head. Oh, in order to aid you, right, pretend you're a hero, right? And that, say you're part of whatever meta you may be more familiar with. It's like whatever you like. Like you can pretend you're Spider-Man and say when you feel anxious, that's your spidey senses tingling. All right, and say you love gaming. It's like, okay, pretend you're a level 6. How competent do you think you are to solve all of the world's problems? And like, if you think it's like, there's no such thing as a level cap. Really is. There really isn't. In fact, no one really knows your level. It's like you have a level, but you have to enact that level out for people to be like, oh, this guy can take down a level 17 or something like that. But it's like, what level you think you're at? And just pretend you're at that level. And every time you get anxious, know that what you're about to face, it might be a little higher level than you. At least where you are at this point in time. And this can be in different, well, not necessarily, because people who tend to be anxious, say, have disorders. No, that's incorrect. Okay, it's just fine. So if something is making you anxious, picture that this is a beast in its own competence hierarchy, right? And say that those who can handle this beast, say, extremely well, are very high level. So if you're absolutely scared to death of performing in front of an audience, you're low level as far as that is concerned. And most people are really low. Because, okay, there's an overall level, and then you, I guess, have skill levels, right? And the skill levels, okay, like public speaking is a skill level. Blah, 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 skill level. Talking to adults. Talking to girls. That's a skill level. Making your bed. That's a skill level. Everything is a skill level. And your ability to, say, set a goal in that area, achieve it with almost 100% certainty, it's like, that's your level. If you're feeling anxious about something, about doing something, that means it's past your level. And so for the only way really for you to level up is to confront it, to figure it out. And I mean, damn, there you go. Do that enough, you level up. All of a sudden, that's no problem for you. Right? Like public speaking. Go back to public speaking again. You start level, you're scared to death. You can only speak in front of two people. And this is when I was talking about that tweet earlier that I was saying, oh, stop making children present in front of groups. It's like, no, or students. It's like, no, what you want to do, right, is to not just not present at all, because that's bullshit. Because then everyone would just be like, no, I don't want to present. They don't get to present. That's not how the world works, okay? And it's not how life works. Like, you can blame the world. Well, you can also blame life, right? It's because if you're scared to death of something and you run away from it, it's like, that's not solving the problem. May for the short term, but a very short term. And people tend to resent you when you do that. It's because they have to face it. Or those who face it tend to resent you. Or if they're more competent, they pity you, at least, because they know of the situation you're going through, which you have to as a clinician, like, most definitely. Like, what you would have to do is say, if you're scared to death of presenting in 20 people, how about 15? No. How about 10? No. How about 5? No. How about 4, but of people you consider friends? Okay, I can do that. Great. All right, cool. They do that. Okay, they might do it several times before that's like easy peasy for them. And then boom, confidence kind of goes up a bit. Now, speaking in front of 4 people, how about try 4 strangers? No? Okay, how about 2 friends, 2 strangers? You can do that? Okay, solid. And then it just keeps going. You keep leveling up. I mean, it's a game. It's a damn video game, the whole world is. It's like, that's what video games are. They're just representations of, say, the normal world. It's like, that's what a video game is. When you go into a video game, there's a set of rules you have to abide by in order to increase in level. Say, to increase in competence, to climb the competence hierarchy. It's like, there's some, you have to. So, and then, well, the games have their own specific rule sets, things you have to learn, things you have to familiarize, things you have to master in order to climb that competence hierarchy or climb that level. Same thing. Or I don't know. Did I use the example of games twice? Well, life. So life is that too. It's like, there's a lot of rules in life. There's a lot of limitations on how you can rise the competence hierarchy, and it's like, you got to figure them out. And well, that's by going balls deep in it, saying, okay, let's see what I can do here. Right? I'm level 1. I'm going to take out this level 2. It's like, I mean, there are some people who out there who are fearless, and they're absolutely destroy the competence hierarchy. It's like, they face level 10s as level 5s. It's because they don't care. They die, get sent to the graveyard. They're like, another day in the boonies, man. It's like, it's no problem to them. And for some people, that's absolutely terrifying. The possibility of being harmed from confronting chaos. It's like, that's hard. That sucks. It's ass. But you got to do it. It's the only way to get competent, right? That's what learning is. I was learning in class about learning. And like, I don't know if I want to give the neuropsychology. I'm going to do it just so I can blow my own horn, right? Or at least see if I actually have this kind of stuff in order. Okay, so what gives humans the ability to learn is really their, I'd say, neural systems. Now, we're just talking neurology here. So what happens first is something is sensed by your sensory motors, your sensory neurons. And well, so like in a sponge, all they have is sensory neurons and motor neurons. And so all they can do is like one pattern elicits one response. That's it. And it's and so in like hydras, now you got, I believe, interneurons. So it allows for more complex responses. But it doesn't connect, but no hypothalamus, right? Hypothalamus allows for perception. And so for us, we have a hypothalamus, which is great. We're allowed to perceive. But something important to remember is that you do not perceive at first. Perception takes about 0.5 seconds to perceive something. And so really the first 0.5 seconds, that's all reflex. That's why people are so damn good at, say, like video games. Someone who's played, say, like FPS games for a very long time is an absolute animal. It's because they're so used to it that they don't even have to perceive what they're doing or what they need to do. It's almost ingrained into their muscle memory to do certain things. And so your body first reacts. It has we have our own set patterns for certain stimulus. And so, and the most fundamental I would say is the sense of danger. I'd say, most definitely. Well, if we've ever sensed a danger, okay, I'll use this as an example. Say you're walking down the hallway in a dark room in your house, and someone in your family jumps out and scares the ever-loving shit out of you. You scream. First, you push yourself back, and it's like, that's retreat. That's straight mechanism right there. That's straight reflex to retreat. It's like you don't get to perceive it yet. It's like, it's almost like the first thing you find out is not necessarily meaning, but it's possible danger. And so you say, okay, based on what my senses have felt, this is danger. It's like before you even get to perceive, and you're acting before you even get to perceive. Like what is going on? You don't know what's going on, yet your body's so, oh, and you scream, and it's like, because that's two things: is to retreat, to put space between you and that which is a possible threat, and the scream is the intimidation aspect. I mean, these are both biologically ingrained, like inextricable for a reflexology. It's like absolutely, I mean, most definitely, it's just animalistic instincts amongst all animals. Well, you'll notice that right after that, and really it's about half a second afterwards, you go, oh, this is my sister. Ha ha, bitch. Why, you think that's funny? And so now it's no longer a threat. It's like you calm down. It's like, hell yeah. It's because you perceived something. So that's what perception is. And well, that goes into play with something called the map schema. Which I'm learning in my learning processes class that is called modal action pattern, which is a set of sequential activities to achieve, say, a goal of some sort. I'm not sure if I'm wording that completely right, but which is weird because I first heard map schema as motivation, action, perception schema, which I might assume is the same thing. So you're more or less motivated, and well, that's by satiation. By whatever you could, psychological terms, you could say like the id, Freudian sense, or well, okay, no. So just necessity, right? And well, necessity is more or less determined I think by like hypothalamus. I think the hypothalamus is like one extremely important as far as learning. Um, for because there's two segments. Well, the hypothalamic medial nuclei. It's just like if you cut open a brain, it's just big clumps of stuff. You might be able to barely distinguish. It's like so when I say hypothalamic medial nuclei, nuclei is just basically areas of the brain, just like a small area of the brain, and it's usually up to who's ever talking about the brain, what their goal is or what they want to get across, is what affects what areas of the brain they describe. So they could just randomly say, I would say hypothalamic medial nuclei, because medial means in the middle and lateral means outside. So medial is like really in there, right? So it's the parts of the hypothalamus that are really kind of in there, right? And so there's two segments. For the sake of this discussion, there's two segments, because like when you're talking about neuroanatomy, it's like it's really up to the person talking about the parts of the brain to give them, say, their directional names, like medial, lateral, ventral, dorsal, and all that kind of stuff. And so you have rostral and caudal. And so rostral, say, the upper part of the hypothalamic medial nuclei, or the upper segment, and the caudal is the bottom part. And so these two have two separate different things. And so the rostral segment of the hypothalamic medial nuclei is like the necessity guy. It more or less handles defense, reproduction, hunger. I can't necessarily remember but necessities, basic needs. And so when you perceive something, right? When a need arises, so whether it's just hunger or a beast shows up, and you perceive it, well, first of all, you're motivated by necessities. Necessities motivate you. And, well, you have to act in order to satiate those needs. And well, you must perceive your surroundings and possible routes to attain that which satiates your need. So, I mean, you got, which those can be really distinguished into two behaviors, which is, no, that's consumatory. That's consumatory behavior, which is satiating a need. That's what consumatory behavior is. So just eating, right? So your map schema more or less says, okay, I'm motivated right now to get food. I have to act to get food. Is there any food? Perceive my surroundings. Perceive my current sensory stimuli. Is there food nearby? Okay. No, there's not. Well, your map schema is failing right now. It's because you don't know how to get food at this moment, given your situation. So this is where the caudal segment of the hypothalamic medial nuclei kicks in. I'm getting tired. Oh my gosh, my eyes are... How long have I been doing this? Eesh. It's only supposed to be like 30 minutes. Eesh. So the caudal segment of the hypothalamic medial nuclei handles forgery and exploration. Now, it's composed of the mammillary body, which I'm pretty sure controls head motion, the substantia nigra, which controls the head movement, neck movement, eyes, and limbs, right? Which, if you are exploring, wow, exploring. If you're exploring, these are the things you use, right? Forgery, remember? Like you look through bushes, head, eyes. You're paying attention. You're basically exploring for that which satiates your needs, which is called appetitive behavior. Um, okay. I heard a noise up there and it confused me. So when you, so that kicks in. And so you explore. And so once you achieve, you find that which satiates need, say food, you overwrite certain, say, map schemas, or you create new map schemas, saying, okay, there's a place here, right? There's a tree here with plenty of apples in there. So now next time you need to eat, you don't need to necessarily go into exploration and forgery mode, because you're motivated. You can activate a map schema, which is motivation to eat, action, which is the action, which is the the consumatory behavior, I guess, but known consumatory behavior. It's like you already know exactly where you're going. But perception, it's like, well, where are you right now? It's like, because if you know where you're at right now, then you'll know how to get there. As if, insofar as your cognitive spatial memory is not absolutely bunko. And so, boom, all of a sudden, every time you need to eat, map schema, map schema, map schema, map schema. You enact stuff over and over and over again. Until all of a sudden, boom, the food's gone. Well, guess who kicks in again? Oh, the caudal segment of the hypothalamic medial nuclei. Okay. Also, included in say, the caudal segment, that one, is the ventral tegmental area, which is a dopaminergic reward and incentive area. So that kicks your dopamine in. It's like, makes you happy. It's the one that says, hey, you're doing good. When you find something, it's just like, yeah. It just shoots some dopamine in there. When you say explore and find what you're looking for, it's like, it's a nice one. So that's some good motivation to explore. More than just the need to, satiate a need. So learning is composed of acting something out. If that does not work, figure out why it's not working and how you can make it work. Try. Get closer. Okay? Try that map schema. So configure that map schema until it works. And then sooner or later, that same map schema might not work again. So you have to rewrite it again. And you can thank your old caudal segment of the hypothalamic medial nuclei for that. And so I guess to reroute back into anxiety, I want to close. I was going to talk about PTSD, but yikes, that'd be another hour and a half. I learn is simply learn of that which is a beast to you, a threat. Familiarize yourself with threat by, you might not necessarily be able to handle what you consider the threat. And so maybe you need to familiarize yourself with its underlings, right? Which things that are less severe than it. So if you are absolutely terrified of talking in front of 30 people, talk in front of 5. Then talk in front of 7. Then talk in front of 9. And then do that over and over and over again. It's climbing a damn staircase, right? It's a stairway to heaven, really. Because the more competent you are, the better your life is. Or at least the less hellish it is. Because you can suffer and be competent, but that suffering is of no problem to you if you're competent. So it's the attainment of competence is the stairway to heaven. And well, unless you're a big-legged freak, you can't take like 50 steps at a time. I mean, some people, like me, I can go about 4 at a time. If I've downed like 15 Red Bulls, let's go. It's like, I can do that. But some staircases, get a little different. Sometimes the staircases are, yikes, things are falling apart. I gotta real be careful when I take my steps. It's like, I'll take 1 at a time. And well, often, you'll look up that and it's like, okay, there's no way I can climb that. It's like, well, because it's infinite, duh. Nobody can climb that. But you can get really damn far. Like, really damn far. And then But, and I think people say with anxiety and people with depression as well, people with a depression don't necessarily have that drive, right? People with depression, they don't have the drive to go up that staircase. They can't do it. Because, there's no meaning. It doesn't matter, it's just a lot of different elements in that. And so say like anxiety, it's just like, there's no way I can climb up that. I'll fall. It's like they're scared of it. They're scared to death of climbing that staircase. While depressed people just don't think they can ever do anything. Well, I mean, it's different. I mean, that's way oversimplification, but you get the point. So, I mean, Stairway to Heaven's a big staircase. It's a big goal because it's an endless goal. So, slice that little cake into a bunch of smaller goals, all right? And man, just put a curtain every 50, just pretend you can only see 50. And if you can't do that, then you could take, say, like antidepressants or serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Because what those do is say, like on the Stairway to Heaven, they more or less boost your confidence, like big time. So it like shrouds some of the back part of the staircase. And so as far as what you can see, you're like, I can handle that. I can handle that. So, I mean, if I say you're depressed or anxious, like, see a psychiatrist and find out the best antidepressant for you to take, or serotonin reuptake inhibitor, because they're all different. They all have different effects. Like you could tell that from the meta-analysis they have on, at least the most recent thorough meta-analysis on antidepressants shows that it's very patient-specific. The efficacy of the drug, the effectiveness of the drug, is fairly, like, they're all useful, but they still all deviate. So it's very patient-specific. It's like you got to find the one that works for you and that doesn't make the benefits not outweigh the detriments. Because there's a lot of detriments in taking, any drugs like that. It's like, I mean, say if you have an extreme coping, say if you're depressed and like your coping mechanism is eating ice cream and you're like depressed, and the clinician will find out that a large part of your depression is your insecurity of, like, say, your body image. I wouldn't suggest giving them a drug that makes them gain more weight. Eek. So, I mean, it's really different for everybody. So, yeah. I mean, for those who are anxious, think of a hero in whatever media form you want. Say, like a story. It could be Harry Potter, for example, because Harry Potter's the damn hero. I mean, they're all actually heroes. They have all had their heroic aspects or their own little hero motifs, little sub-stories in within. Pretend you're Spider-Man. Pretend you're Superman. Right? When your anxiety kicks in, that's a beast emerging itself, saying, I'm what you need to pass in order to become more competent, to increase your level. And so make sure that when you're anxious about something, it has to get defeated. And you don't defeat by running away, you defeat by confronting. So if you're too anxious to clean your whole house, it's like, well, you better clean your whole damn house or you're going to be a walking tub of anxiety. But if you're not able to, say if you're level 5, and that's like cleaning your whole house is a level 10 quest. It's like, okay, well, you know what's a level 5 quest? Or a level 6 quest? Cleaning your bedroom. Or just cleaning the kitchen. Cleaning the kitchen might be higher. I don't know. It's like you don't have to do the whole goal in one go. And well, you'll often find that when you're like that level 5 and that your goal's at level 10, the level 10 scares the hell out of you. It's like you're not able to handle it, and you probably can't. Well, you'll find that when you're level 5 and you say, okay, fine, I'll just defeat this level 6. You know, instead of just having the big problem of hitting level 10, defeating level 10, separate it into level 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and then start with the level 6. You'll find that once you start beating the ever-loving snot out of that level 6, it's actually kind of fun, right? And it's weird because it baffled me, like the grinding part of MMOs. It's like, why the hell am I doing this? I'm just click, 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 click. It's like, what? How is that fun? I'm just watching a random little dude that has nothing to do with me just hit it like a boar. It's like, how is that fun? It's like, because you're not really doing that. It's like you're confronting something in the game. It's like you're embodying yourself into that character and taking down beasts. It's like, and you love it. It's fun. You're addicted. You can't stop. And so if you realize it, you can do that in a game. I could probably try doing that in real life. It might be a little harder because, I mean, because you're actually, say, cleaning stuff up versus just clicking or numbers over and or the keys over and over again. But yeah, you'll find that once you start it, you'll actually kind of enjoy it. And I've noticed that because I'm not necessarily anxious, because not too long ago, say if you were to observe me a year ago, I would not really be conscientiousness. I'd be lazy. It's like I would never do anything for myself. Like I would never go out and just really study hard for classes. I would never work out. I would never eat healthy and all that stuff. And it's just because I just found it annoying. It's like I'd just rather sit and do things that make me feel good right now. And it's just like, yeah, I would most definitely rather. Everyone would rather do that. But what happens when you do that? It's like future you gets basically shit on, ignored. And well, future you is the you that's going to be you. And so you kind of want to make sure you focus on this guy. And it's biologically ingrained into us. I really think it is. So that's because it's crazy. Once you get in a role, it's like you almost can't stop. It feels absolutely wonderful. It's the same reason that you can grind, click, doing the most mundane, boring, at least on the surface, boring tasks in a video game. It's like, why would people want to do that? And it's because they absolutely love it. It's rewarding. And it's like that conquering kicks open our dopaminergic reward system. It makes us feel good when we conquer. It really does. And it's just like that. So, you mean whatever context you want to put yourself in, know that your anxiety is there to tell you that you have the chance to become better, to say transcend in a way, right? Say if you were to imitate Jesus, yeah, to transcend, you're going to have to suffer a bit. So you're going to have to conquer that thing, whatever it is. If you're Spider-Man, it's just like Spidey senses a tingling. Something bad's going on. I better, well, I could run away, but that problem it'll mess a lot of people up. And it may even end up messing me up. So I'm going to see if I can try and get that stuff in order. That's what a hero does. Okay? Pretend, whatever hero you could pretend. A character in a book. It's whatever. A video game. You pretend you're part of an MMORPG. Say your anxiety system is that which says this guy is a bit better than you are. Right? This guy's a little past your level. You might need to be wary. Right? It might be a little rough defeat this guy. But once you defeat it, it's like, oh my God, that feels good. And the same thing happens in real life. People just don't do it. And it's probably, I'd say one of the reasons why one of the detriments of video games is because it takes that reward system that you could get by doing it in real life and then transferring it to the video game world. But it still trains you. It still does slightly. Because, like, people who are... You can learn from video games about the world. Because that's literally what the video games are. Representations of the world. That's what all real games are. Like even a game of marbles when you're a child. I mean, this is something Piaget pointed out. There's an extremely large amount of games, and the person who succeeds in the whole set of games, which is life, is the one who gets invited back to participate in more games. Because when you participate in more games, the more games you participate in, the more competent you become. Definitely. So it's just like your experience bar. It's like a video game. I'd say that the reward system you get from, say, doing simple tasks in repetitive, boring, tripe tasks in video game is still rewarding, just like it is in real life, actually. But it's a lot easier to do it in video games, which is why it's harder. So people tend to say, like, why can't I do this when I could just really kind of feel the same effect by playing video games? And it's like, yeah, but you got to know that the real game here is life. And so the conqueror of, say, video games is nowhere near gonna be as dopamined out of their mind as the one who conquers life. It's like, I mean, it's sort of like, even in own games, there's specific skill levels. Say, like League of Legends, there's like bronze, silver, gold, diamond, platinum, diamond, sorry. Whatever. It's like, it's the same game, right? But if you were to play in silver, it's like a whole different game from playing in Challenger. Right? But the big bad boys in Challenger. And so if you're a part of Challenger tier, and you're like near the top of that, you're going to feel a lot better about yourself than if you were at the top of, say, silver. It's like, And what's the top game in the world? The game of life. And so, yeah, some things might be tedious off the bat, just like they are in normal MMOs. There's a lot of things you got to learn, a lot of things you don't know about. Like, you start out as level 1, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. So you got to figure it out. So what's the best way to do that? Figure it out. Everything that... Because like I said before, anxiety is a mechanism for identifying possible manifestations of anomaly. Something anomalous may occur, and well, something anomalous has the, well, proclivity to have danger upon it. And so let's pay attention to it, confront it, figure it out, master it, go on to the next problem. And well, the better you get at more simple problems, when you when you level up or whatever, more problems, bigger, badder monsters you can take care of. No problem, right? No problem. No problem. So, man, I tell you what, I'll wrap it up. I'll say, man, solve your anxiety by being a hero, right? Let me take one more little example. One Punch Man. You might not know about One Punch Man, but it does a real good play on the hero motif, because in that world there's a whole hero system, and there's each ranks. Everyone can be a hero, but you start out as a rank C, and then it goes to be a S. And so, yeah, be a hero. Yeah, you're probably gonna, well, everyone's gonna start out at level C or rank C. In fact, you might not even be able to pass the exams to become a hero, because you had to pass exams to be given a hero rank. So you might have to do a little work. And so, starting out, it sucks. It's like just going to the gym, working out. There's not really you're still not considered a hero. It's like, well, you are. It's like, you really are. It's like a rank C hero is a hero. A rank S hero is a hero. They're all really doing the same thing. It's just, the better you get at doing it, the more of the more you embody that which a hero aims to be. Because the ultimate hero, any suffering doesn't faze them at all. In fact, they can take suffering, turn it around, and just straight into positivity. Almost no problem. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, but nobody can ever do that. Right? Like, Jesus could, at least that's the idea behind Jesus, is that he could do that. And so he was more the intermediary figure between a divine being and mankind, so that we can imitate in order to become as close as possible. That's why Jesus was introduced in the New Testament. It's because, who we can imitate? God? It's like, yeah, good luck. So, imitation, man. Imitation. Put yourself into context, because I tend to agree with Jungian approaches, like narratives. I love narratives, man. I think narratives have an absolutely profound effect on the structure of belief and mankind, behavior, and everything. I think it's all really down deep predicated in narratives. I think just real life itself is a narrative. It's like just a really realistic movie that you're watching. You feel the same emotions when you see someone you like get hit or get hurt in a movie than you would in real life. It's like same emotions. It's all a narrative, really. So I think try to author your own story. Maybe put a little extra additions on the side. It's like, you can imagine. Right? You can try imagining things. It's like, I mean, I did that, I did find myself doing that in my depression in sort of mid high school. I would walk around shoulders back, head up, which increases serotonin levels. It does, um, which is a confidence neurotransmitter. Just putting your posture up and walking up straight. And I create a little story behind myself, right? You can pretend that maybe you're I don't know, a secret powerful being that the government uses or asks to fulfill tasks to save the world, and just walk around like you're that person. Like sometimes you have to imitate, right? You have to imitate. But and like you'll see that actually because there's a lot of cringy videos of like people trying to imitate, and it's just be like, what the hell? And it's like the those, I guess, people who are like way into to anime, or well, specifically shonen fighting anime. And so when they actually get in a fight for the first time, they're like, whoa, whoa, and it's like, man, yikes, buddy, yikes. So, and I think something of Japanese nature, I think a neat, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a term that's, I think Japanese, I guess, for people who have, who actually think they have like some powers because they imitated to the point of an exaggeration where they actually believe it now, which is a common cognitive process where you just, it's like, I mean, false memories. It's like that's the same concept. You run something in your head that happened, and all of a sudden you keep doing it over and over and over again, and all of a sudden it happened, and no one can tell you any differently, even though it didn't happen. So there are people out there who took imitation too far and did not necessarily assimilate it socioculturally, because that's what you have to do. Like I said before, you got to find out your world, the difference between you and the thing you're imitating, and the world you live in and the world they live in. All right. So your internal self, external situation, so how to orient yourself internally and how to orient yourself externally in comparison to how they do it. You can take key ideas, right, from them, but you might not do the same thing. Like if you get into a fight and you're trying to imitate Naruto, right? Because Naruto's a hero, like he is. That's Naruto. It's like if you actually end up getting into a physical fight, it's not going to work. I don't know the hand signs. Don't do it, okay? So that's a tough thing to get through people's head. But if you know how to do it, then I mean, imitation in its form is absolutely fantastic. So you may author your life. Really, you can do that. So that's what I was saying before. That like to increase my confidence, I would just make up random scenarios. Like when I'm walking in the hall, it's just like any moment now, President Obama could call me and say, "Hello, I need you here to take down Bill Clinton," or something like that, right? Yikes. But that would still make me stand up tall. Like just pretend that I'm really some super big secretive figure. I actually started tackling things head on. I was still able to associate this, like, okay, that maybe if I can't use random powers. It's like I was aware of my limitations. I was aware of who I am and what I can accomplish in the moment. Yet I still authored myself into a higher position to increase my confidence. Which is, I guess, a form of itself, an antidepressant. If you don't want to take an antidepressant, I guess under the guidance of a clinician, you can, well, probably a Jungian clinician, pretend you're someone you're not. In a sense, right? Only to a certain extent can you do that, really. Else you won't wind up well at all. culturally. So, I mean, damn. Imitate, confront voluntarily, and your anxiety ain't going to be nothing. Yeah, but some of you are deep in the anxiety. Like it's been building ever since you were born. You're going to have a tough time getting out, right? But I mean, hey, I've started MMOs where I was level 1 and I just kind of explored a bit and went into an area and then found like a level 70 boss. And I'm just like, I left. I ran and say, but like you would in a video game, you wouldn't just run and say, man, there's no way I could ever take that down, so I'm just not going to play. It's like, no. And you know that. You know that in life as well. Because you can see that play out in video games. It's like, it's unbelievable. Like people who are extremely anxious have really high anxiety. It's like when they can, if they were to confront that really dangerous enemy, they wouldn't just run away and stop playing thinking that there's no way they would handle it. They go back and they say, okay, let's get our way up there. And it's like, man, that's the behavior you got to have in your real body. But it's a little more scary because they're actually in their real body. So maybe they need to cut down the steps a little smaller, right? It's the same idea. The big problem, it's like you don't have to face it now. If you don't think you can face it now, don't face it now. You might want to cut it up into smaller ones, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got yourself one step closer to not having anxiety destroying your damn life, or at least impeding. It's like one step closer, man. Hell, step at a time, man. It's like you can even, hell, you could crawl. I don't care. As long as you go forward, really, that's it. Stairway to heaven. It's one step at a time. Hey! I apologize. All right, I'm done.